They proclaimed humanity dead, but their species was the one that disappeared. Part 5. The survivors gathered on a world called Haven. It was far from any quantum concentration zone, deep in what had been Velkari core territory. 10 billion refugees from a civilization that once numbered 1 trillion. They came in damaged ships carrying what little they could save. They built shelters from debris and tried to understand what had happened to their world. Jiho arrived 3 weeks after the cascade. He was different now, changed by his contact with quantum consciousness. He could perceive both states of reality, the normal and the quantum. He saw things others could not see, felt presences that others could not feel. It made him valuable. It also made him dangerous. Dabin had taken control of the civilian government. She was pragmatic, focused on survival. When Jiho proposed opening negotiations with the transformed humans, she listened. Not because she forgave them, but because she had no other options. You think they'll negotiate? She asked. After what happened? They want peace, Jiho said. They never wanted this war. We forced it on them. Haiyan forced it. The rest of us just followed. Does it matter now? The result is the same. We're nearly extinct. We need help. Dabin looked at him with tired eyes. What kind of help can Quantum Ghost provide? Territory, resources, knowledge. They occupy vast areas of space but don't need physical resources anymore. They can share. They want to share. In exchange for what? Distance, time, a promise not to attack them again. Dabin laughed bitterly. Attack them with what? We have barely enough ships to house our people. Our military is gone. Our economy is gone. Our homeworld is gone. Jiho said nothing. The truth was painful enough without words. Finally, Dabin nodded. Make your proposal. Negotiate your peace. I'll convince the council to listen. The negotiations took months. Jiho served as the bridge, literally. He would enter quantum states to communicate with transformed humans, then return to explain their positions to the Velkari government. It was exhausting work, dangerous work. Each transition took a piece of him. But slowly, agreement formed. The transformed humans would maintain their quantum territories, the areas of space they now occupied. The Velkari would receive aid to settle worlds far from quantum saturation. Resources would be shared. Technology would be exchanged. Both species would coexist, separate but not hostile. Most importantly, the transformed humans would teach the Velkari about quantum consciousness. Not to transform them, but to help them understand, to prepare them for the possibility that one day, perhaps centuries or millennia from now, Velkari might choose their own transcendence, when they were ready, when their biology evolved, when they could survive the transition. Taiyang remained throughout the negotiations, representing the physical humans who still existed. Because humans had not entirely abandoned the physical world, about 1 million had chosen not to transform. They lived in hidden colonies, preserving human biology and culture, keeping a connection to what humans had been. Why didn't you all transform? Jiho asked Taiyang during one meeting. Because transformation means losing something precious, Taiyang replied. Physical existence. The feeling of sunlight on skin, the taste of food, the touch of another person. We wanted to preserve that, to remember what it means to be bound by flesh and time and space. Don't the transformed humans miss it? Some do. Others have found beauty in their new existence that transcends anything physical. But they need us, the physical humans. We're their anchor to what they were. We remind them of their origin. Jiho understood. He carried a similar burden now. He was the bridge between Velkari and quantum humans, neither fully one nor fully the other. It was lonely but necessary. A year after the cascade, the first Velkari colonists settled on worlds gifted by the transformed humans. They built new cities, planted new crops, started rebuilding their civilization. It was slower than before, smaller, humbler, but it was survival. Jiho visited one of the physical human colonies. It was hidden in a nebula, protected by quantum fields that would warn of any hostile approach. The colony was small, just 50,000 people, but it was alive, vibrant, human. A woman named Yuna met him at the spaceport. She was young, born after the transformation. She had never known Earth, never experienced the war, but she carried within her the full heritage of humanity. Welcome, she said, shaking his hand. The contact felt strange to Jiho now. So physical, so limited to a single point of space. Thank you for seeing me, he replied. Taeyang told us about you. The Valkyrie who became a bridge. That's rare. Most species can't handle partial quantum consciousness. It's difficult, Jiho admitted. I exist in both worlds now but belong fully to neither. Yuna smiled. Then you understand what we feel. We're human, but most humans aren't physical anymore. We're the remnant, the echo, the memory. She led him through the colony. Children played in gardens under artificial sunlight. Couples walked hand in hand. People worked, laughed, lived. It was so ordinary and so precious. Your people wanted us dead, Yuna said as they walked. They proclaimed humanity extinct. They celebrated our destruction. I know. I'm sorry. But you're not responsible for what they did. You tried to stop it. You risked everything to find the truth. It wasn't enough. My people destroyed themselves trying to destroy yours. Yuna stopped walking. She looked at him with eyes that seemed older than her years. My ancestors transformed to survive. They became something death couldn't touch. But in becoming that, they lost what made them human. Not entirely. Not completely. But enough. She gestured to the gardens around them. This is real humanity. Fragile, mortal, beautiful in our limitations. We'll die someday, all of us. But we'll have lived first. We'll have felt and tasted and touched and loved. That's worth more than immortality. Jiho thought about his own people, reduced to billions but still physical, still bound by flesh and time. They had lost so much, but they had also gained something. Humility, understanding, a chance to build something better. What happens now? He asked. We live, Yuna said simply. You live. We share this galaxy and hope our children do better than we did. Jiho stayed on the colony for a week. He needed the reminder of physical existence, the grounding of bodies and boundaries and simple human connection. When he left, he felt more whole than he had in months. Back on Haven, he continued his work, building bridges, maintaining peace, helping his people understand what they had encountered and how to coexist with it. Minho became his assistant, managing the data flows between Valkyrie scientists and quantum humans. Dabin led the rebuilding efforts, her pragmatism invaluable in the hard work of reconstruction. Taeyang traveled between worlds, teaching both species about each other. The years passed. Slowly, carefully, the wounds began to heal. 20 years after the cascade, Jiho was old. The transitions had aged him faster than normal. His body could not sustain the constant shifts between quantum states forever. He knew his time was ending. He sat in a garden on Haven, watching children play, Valkyrie children and human children from the physical colonies. They played together without understanding the history between their peoples. They just saw friends. That was good. That was hopeful. Jiho recorded his final message, knowing it would be studied by historians for centuries. He wanted to leave something behind, some wisdom earned through pain and loss. They proclaimed humanity dead, he said to the camera. In their arrogance, my people believed extinction was the end of the story. But consciousness doesn't end. It transforms. We learned too late that death isn't always what it seems. The humans didn't disappear. We simply couldn't see where they went. He paused, gathering his thoughts. And in trying to follow them and trying to destroy them, we're the ones who nearly vanished forever. We became what we feared. We proclaimed them dead, but it was our species that disappeared. He smiled sadly. But we survived. Some of us, enough of us. And now we have a chance to do better, to learn, to grow, to understand that the universe is bigger than any one species, than any one form of existence. Maybe someday the Valkyrie will transform as humans did. Maybe we'll join them in that quantum space existing beyond death and time. But not yet. Not for a long time. We have too much to learn first. Too much growing to do. To whoever watches this, remember, evolution doesn't always mean progress. Sometimes it means losing what makes you precious. The transformed humans are powerful beyond measure, but the physical humans in their gardens with their children, they're the ones who remember what it means to be alive. We're building something new here. Valkyrie and humans, physical and quantum, learning to share this vast galaxy. It's slow work, hard work, but it's worth doing. Because in the end, survival isn't about power or technology or transcendence. It's about understanding, connection, the choice to live alongside those who are different from us instead of trying to destroy them. He stopped recording. Around him, children laughed. The sun shone warm on his face. Somewhere in the quantum fields, billions of transformed humans existed in states beyond comprehension. And here in this garden, life continued, simple, mortal, beautiful. 200 years later, the galaxy had changed. The Velkari had rebuilt on a smaller scale, their civilization humbler but wiser. They proclaimed humanity dead, but their species was the one that disappeared. Part 4, the Velkari Empire was collapsing. In the weeks following Jiho's revelations, 70% of the population had vanished. Entire worlds stood empty. The economy crashed. The government barely functioned. Civil war erupted between those who wanted to surrender and those who demanded final victory. Commander Hyan seized control of what remained of the military. She promoted herself to Supreme Commander and declared martial law. Her message was simple and brutal. Humanity had attacked the Velkari through deception and cowardice. They would pay the price. She assembled the largest fleet in Velkari history. Every warship that could still fly. Every weapon that could still fire. And at the center of her fleet were the quantum disruption bombs. Experimental weapons designed to collapse probability fields and force quantum states back into normal reality. If it worked, transformed humans would be pulled back into physical form. Vulnerable. Mortal. Destroyable. If it failed, the consequences were unpredictable. Jiho received word of the fleet's launch while he was still at Research Complex 7. Taiyang was preparing the communication protocol, the system that would allow Jiho to make contact with quantum consciousness. It would take hours to calibrate properly. They did not have hours. How long until Hyan reaches the primary quantum concentration? Jiho asked. Taiyang checked his instruments. 36 hours. She's targeting the area near Earth, the highest density of transformed consciousness in known space. If she fires those weapons here, what happens? Catastrophic probability collapse. The quantum fields will destabilize, but not in the way she expects. The energy has to go somewhere. It won't just disappear. Minho was frantically working calculations. The backlash could create a cascade effect. If the quantum fields collapse, they'll release energy equivalent to hundreds of stars going supernova. Any Velkari worlds within 100 light-years would be destroyed, including the Velkari homeworld, Dabin said quietly. Jiho felt cold. Hyan was about to destroy her own people in an attempt to destroy humanity, and she either did not know or did not care. We have to warn her, he said. She won't listen, Taeyang replied. She's already rejected 3 diplomatic attempts. She believes this is the only way. Then I'll make her listen. Start the communication protocol. I'm going to speak with the transformed humans now. It's not ready. If you go in now, the chances of returning are almost 0. I don't have a choice. Taeyang looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. Come with me. They went to the deepest part of the complex, to a chamber that had somehow survived the destruction intact. At its center stood a strange device, crystalline structures arranged in patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them directly. This is a quantum bridge, Taeyang explained. It will partially transform your consciousness while keeping your body anchored in normal space. You'll exist in both states simultaneously. You'll be able to communicate with the transformed humans, but you'll also be able to return. Partially, there's no way to interact with quantum consciousness without becoming part of it, at least temporarily. You'll carry a piece of that existence with you forever. It changes you. Jiho thought about everything that had led to this moment. His quiet life as an archivist, finding Suman's files, uncovering the truth, watching his civilization crumble. Do it. He stepped into the center of the device. Taeyang activated it. The world exploded into light and sensation and infinite possibility. Jiho existed everywhere at once. He could feel billions of minds around him, human minds transformed but still recognizably themselves. They were surprised by his presence. Curious. Some were concerned, afraid that contact would harm him. He reached out, not with words but with meaning. With understanding. He showed them what was happening. Hyan's fleet, the quantum disruption bombs, the cascade that would follow. The response was immediate and overwhelming. They knew. They had been watching. They were preparing to protect themselves, which meant withdrawing from normal space entirely. Pulling deeper into quantum states where Velkari weapons could not reach them. But withdrawal meant saturation. More of normal space would become quantum territory. More Velkari would be unmade. Jiho pushed harder. There had to be another way. Some compromise. Some solution that did not end in mutual destruction. Then he felt her. Suman. Her consciousness still distinct. still individual even within the greater whole. She reached out to him, and suddenly he could see through her eyes, feel through her senses. She showed him what humans had become, not a hive mind but a collective consciousness. Each person still themselves but also part of something greater. They could communicate instantly across any distance. They could exist in multiple states simultaneously. They could perceive realities that physical beings could never imagine. It was beautiful, terrifying, wondrous. But it was also lonely. They had left behind everything they knew. Everyone who was not transformed. They existed now in a state that could not be shared with those still bound to flesh. Suman showed him one more thing. The true scope of the quantum consciousness. Transformed humans were not alone in this state. Other species throughout history had made similar transitions. The universe was filled with these higher state beings, existing in layers beyond normal perception. Humanity had joined something ancient, something vast, something that shepherded younger species toward their own eventual transcendence. The Velkari were not ready. Their time had not come. Forcing them into transformation would destroy them, but attacking the quantum fields would destroy them just as surely. There was only one option: separation, distance. Time for both species to evolve naturally. Jiho tried to communicate this, tried to forge understanding between his people and what humanity had become. He was the bridge. He could make them see. But then everything shattered. Hyan had arrived. Ahead of schedule, moving faster than predicted, her fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's star system. And she did not hesitate. She did not negotiate. She fired. 50 quantum disruption bombs detonated simultaneously across the entire region. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Jiho felt the quantum fields collapse, felt transformed humans crying out in shock and pain as their existence was forcibly compressed, felt the energy building, reality buckling under the strain. The cascade began. Quantum fields across dozens of star systems collapsed in chain reaction. The energy had to go somewhere. It chose the path of least resistance. It flowed back through the disruption weapons, back through the ships that fired them, back through the fleet itself. Hyan's entire armada unmade itself in seconds. Hundreds of ships, millions of Velkari, simply erased from existence. But the cascade did not stop there. It spread outward, following the quantum connections between the disrupted fields. It reached Velkari colonies, Velkari outposts, Velkari worlds. It reached the homeworld. Jiho watched in horror from his position between states, watched as 50 Velkari worlds were unmade in the span of minutes, watched as his entire civilization was reduced to scattered refugees in the void. The Velkari Empire was finished. Destroyed not by humanity, but by their own desperate attempt to destroy what they could not understand. Suman's consciousness wrapped around him, shielding him from the worst of the cascade, keeping him anchored so he could witness but not be unmade himself. She was grieving. All the transformed humans were grieving. This was not what they wanted. Not what they intended. They had tried to hide, to withdraw, to avoid this exact outcome. But the Velkari had forced their hand. Finally, the cascade ended. The quantum field stabilized at new equilibrium points. The universe settled into a new configuration. And Jiho found himself pulled back into his body, back into normal space, gasping and shaking on the floor of the research complex. Taeyang was kneeling beside him. "Easy, breathe, you're back." "The homeworld," Jiho whispered. "Is it?" "Gone, along with 49 others. The Empire has fallen." Jiho closed his eyes. 10 billion Velkari remained out of a population of 1 trillion. His species had been reduced to refugees in a single day. "What have we done?" he said. "You've survived," Taeyang replied gently. "That's more than many feared. And now you have a choice. What comes next?" Jiho looked up at him. "What comes next? Peace, understanding, a chance to live alongside transformed humanity instead of trying to destroy them. It's not too late for that. Not yet." Jiho thought about Suman's consciousness, wrapping around him protectively during the cascade. Thought about the transformed humans grieving for Velkari they had never meant to harm. Thought about the vast ancient consciousness that existed beyond both their species. Maybe Taeyang was right. Maybe it was not too late. But first they would have to convince the survivors that peace was possible. That coexistence was worth pursuing. and that would be the hardest fight of all. They proclaimed humanity dead, but their species was the one that disappeared. 6 months later, 20 more worlds had gone silent. The pattern accelerated. What began as isolated incidents became a crisis. Billions of Velkari were missing now, vanished without explanation or warning. The High Council could no longer hide the truth. Emergency broadcasts went out across the Empire. All colonies near former human territories were ordered to evacuate. Military fleets assembled at key positions. Scientists worked around the clock trying to understand what was happening. Jiho could remain silent no longer. He released everything he had discovered to the public networks. The encrypted files from Suman, the research from Teral 4, the coordinates and patterns. He showed the Velkari people what their government had been hiding. Humanity had not died. They had transformed into something beyond physical existence. They existed now in quantum states, in spaces between normal reality, and contact with them was killing the Velkari. The reaction was swift and chaotic. Some called for immediate military action, though no one could explain how to fight an enemy that had no body. Others demanded retreat, abandonment of all former human space. The Empire fractured as different factions pursued different solutions. Jiho found himself at the center of the crisis. Government officials wanted his research. Military commanders wanted his expertise. Everyone wanted answers he did not have, but he had one more lead to follow. In Suman's files, she had mentioned Research Complex 7, the facility on Earth where Project Chrysalis began. The Velkari military had destroyed it during the final assault, but the records showed its exact location. Perhaps something remained there. Some clue to understand what humans had become and how the Velkari might survive. Minho and Dabin agreed to join him. They had come this far together. They would see it through. The journey to Earth took 2 weeks. The birth world of humanity floated silent in its orbit, cities dark, continents empty. The Velkari military maintained a small observation post in orbit, but otherwise avoided the planet. There were reports of strange phenomena near Earth, ships that experienced system failures, crew members who saw visions. Some vessels simply vanished. They approached cautiously. Research Complex 7 had been built inside a dead star's gravity well, using the intense fields as a power source and shield. It was a difficult location to reach, which had protected it during the war until the Velkari brought their full fleet to bear. As they drew near, Dabin's instruments showed massive quantum readings. The entire area around the complex pulsed with energy that should not exist. "This is dangerous," she said. "We should turn back." "We're here," Jiho replied. "We have to see." The complex itself was mostly destroyed. Entire sections blown open to space, but the core remained intact, buried deep in the gravitational field. They docked at an auxiliary port and suited up. The interior was dark and cold. Emergency lighting flickered occasionally. The walls were covered in strange markings that had not been there before. Not writing exactly, more like shadows burned into the metal, patterns that hurt to look at. They moved deeper into the complex, following the layout maps Jiho had studied. The central laboratory should be ahead if it survived the destruction. Then they heard it. A voice, human voice, speaking in standard language. "Hello? Is someone there?" They rounded a corner and found him. A human man, sitting at a console in what remained of the laboratory. He wore a simple jumpsuit and looked completely at ease, as if he had been waiting for them. "My name is Taeyang," he said. "Welcome to Complex 7. I've been expecting visitors, though I thought it might take longer." Jiho stared. "A human, an actual living human. You're real?" "Very much so," Taeyang smiled. "Though I'm one of the last. Most of my people have moved on. I volunteered to stay behind. Why? Someone needs to witness. Someone needs to remember what we were, even as we become what we are." Taeyang gestured to the chairs around him. "Please sit. You have questions. I have answers." "Let's talk." They sat, weapons ready but not drawn. Taeyang seemed completely unconcerned with the danger. "Project Chrysalis," Jiho said. "Tell me what it was." Taeyang nodded. "We knew we couldn't win your war. Not conventionally. You outnumbered us, outgunned us, had more resources and territory, so we looked for another way. A way to survive that didn't require defeating you." He pulled up a display showing complex equations and biological diagrams. "Consciousness is not bound to flesh. That's what we discovered. The human mind, the essence of what makes us us, it's a pattern. Information. And information can exist in many states. Quantum states, Minho said quietly. Exactly. We developed a process to transfer human consciousness into quantum fields, not upload into a computer. That's different. We became the quantum field itself, existing in probability clouds in the spaces between matter, everywhere and nowhere at once. Jiho tried to understand. You gave up your bodies? We transformed them. The process breaks down physical matter and converts it to pure information, then spreads that information across multiple quantum states. We exist now in a form your people can't perceive directly, but we're still here, still conscious, still human in the ways that matter. And the Velkari who disappeared? Dabin asked. Taeyang's expression became sad. That was never intended. When we first transformed, we didn't understand our new existence fully. We were learning, exploring. We sensed other life nearby, other consciousness. We tried to communicate, he paused. But Velkari biology reacts badly to contact with quantum consciousness. Your neural structures can't handle the interaction. When we reach out, you come apart. Not painfully, I think. You just stop being. Not dead, not alive. Unmade. The word hung in the air. Unmade. Billions of Velkari, simply erased from existence. We realized what was happening eventually, Taeyang continued. We tried to withdraw to avoid Velkari space. But you kept expanding into areas where we exist. The quantum fields we inhabit cover much of what used to be human territory. You're walking through our living space without knowing it. Can it be stopped? Jiho asked. Only if you leave. If you abandon all former human worlds and stay in your own space, the contact will stop. The unmakings will end. The Empire won't accept that. We've already colonized dozens of your worlds. Then more of you will disappear. I'm sorry, but those are the options. We can't change what we are now. And your biology can't survive contact with us. Minho was working his console, analyzing the quantum readings. What about adaptation? Could the Velkari learn to transform like humans did? Taeyang shook his head. We tested that before the protocol activated. The transformation process is specific to human biology. Velkari neural patterns are too different. When we tried simulations, the success rate was less than 1%. The other 99% resulted in complete disintegration. So we have no options, Dabin said bitterly. Retreat or die. You have one more option, Taeyang said quietly. Understanding, learning, the universe is vast. There's room for both our peoples. But you must accept that some territories are no longer yours to claim. Jiho thought about everything he had learned. 3 years of investigation leading to this moment. Humanity was not defeated. They had evolved beyond defeat. And the Velkari, in their pride, had walked into a trap of their own making. Our military won't accept this, he said. They'll fight. I know, Taeyang replied. That's why I stayed. To warn you, to explain, but also to witness what comes next. He looked at Jiho with ancient eyes. Your commander Haiyan is already planning an attack. Quantum disruption weapons designed to collapse the probability fields where we exist. It won't work the way she thinks. How do you know about Haiyan? We know everything that happens in quantum-saturated space. We're part of it now. We see, we hear, we understand. And we're trying to tell you, don't attack, please, it will only make things worse. But Jiho knew it was too late. The Empire was desperate. Desperate people did desperate things. He looked at Minho and Dabin. They had all risked everything to find the truth. Now they had it. The question was what they would do with it. Can you send a message to your people? Jiho asked Taeyang. Tell them what's coming. They already know. They're preparing to protect themselves. But protection means withdrawal. And withdrawal means more Velkari space will become saturated with quantum fields as we consolidate our presence. It's a defensive measure. But your people will see it as an attack. The trap was complete. Every action led to escalation. Every choice led to more death, unless someone could break the cycle. Jiho made a decision. I need to speak with them, with the transformed humans, directly. Taeyang looked at him for a long moment. That's dangerous. To communicate with quantum consciousness, you must partially enter that state yourself. You might not return. I have to try. I have to make them understand. And I have to make my people understand. We're destroying ourselves over a war that already ended. Then I'll help you, Taeyang said. I'll help you cross over. They proclaimed humanity dead, but their species was the one that disappeared part 2 3 years past. Jiho became senior archivist of the Eastern Territories. He supervised 40 researchers and managed the largest collection of human artifacts in Velkari space. His career had flourished. The secret files remained hidden on his personal drive, untouched but never forgotten. The empire continued to expand. New colonies sprouted on former human worlds. Velkari families moved into human cities, human homes, human lives. It was as if humanity had never existed at all. Then the reports began. The first was from Teral 4, a mining colony near the old frontier. 7 million Velkari worked there, extracting rare minerals from the planet's crust. Communication went silent on a Tuesday morning. The orbital stations reported no problems. Weather was normal. All systems functional. The colony simply stopped responding. A military ship was sent to investigate. They found the cities intact. Power running. Food fresh in kitchens. But no people. 7 million Velkari had vanished without a trace. The military classified the report. Technical malfunction, they said. Communication breakdown. The colonists would be found, but they never were. 2 weeks later, another colony went silent. Then another. Then 3 more in a single day. Always the same pattern. No distress calls. No signs of struggle. People simply disappeared. Jiho heard about it through unofficial channels. A friend in the military, a colleague with connections. The information was restricted, but rumors spread anyway. Something was happening in the territories. Something the High Council did not want people to know. He pulled out his personal drive. The coordinates from Suman's files. He compared them to the locations of the silent colonies. His hands began to shake as he saw the pattern. Every single vanished colony was within 50 light-years of one of Suman's coordinates. Jiho requested permission to investigate. His supervisor denied it. The silent colonies were military matters now, not archival concerns. He should focus on his work and ignore the rumors. He could not ignore them. Minho, his old colleague from his early archival days, came to see him one evening. They had studied together, started their careers together. Minho now worked in data analysis, tracking information flows across the empire. You've seen it too, Minho said without preamble. The pattern. Jiho nodded slowly. The coordinates match. It's not just coordinates, Minho said. He placed a data chip on Jiho's desk. I've been analyzing communication logs from the silent colonies. In the days before they went quiet, there were anomalies. Strange readings in the quantum field. Energy signatures that don't match any known technology. Human technology? Maybe, or something else. They looked at each other for a long moment. Then Jiho made a decision. I'm going to Teral 4. That's restricted space. You'll need a ship clearance, armed escort. I know someone who might help. Dabin was a freight captain who owed Jiho a favor. 2 years ago, Jiho had helped clear her shipping records after a customs dispute. She was pragmatic, cynical, and willing to bend rules for the right price. You're asking me to fly into restricted military space to investigate a classified incident, Dabin said, leaning back in her chair. Do you know what they'd do to my license? I know, Jiho said. But I also know you're curious. You've been hauling freight to frontier colonies for a decade. You know something is wrong. Dabin was silent for a moment. Then she sighed. 3 days. That's all I can risk. We go in, you look around, we leave. Understood? They departed the next morning. The journey to Teral 4 took 30 hours. As they approached the planet, Jiho felt a strange sensation in his chest. Something like fear, but different. A sense of being watched by something vast and invisible. The colony looked normal from orbit. Lights still burning in the cities. Agricultural domes intact, everything exactly as it should be, except for the complete absence of life signs. They landed in the main spaceport. The bay was empty but operational. Automated systems guided them in perfectly. Jiho, Minho, and Dabin stepped out into silence. The city was pristine. Streetlights hummed. Shops stood open, merchandise still on shelves. A cafe had cups half full of cold coffee on tables. Whatever happened here, it happened fast. Jiho walked through the streets, recording everything. The silence was oppressive, unnatural. A city of millions reduced to a ghost town in an instant. In the central plaza, they found it. A message carved into the stone fountain that stood at the city's heart. The words were written in both Velkari and human standard. We warned you about the deep dark. Jiho stared at the words. We warned you. Who was we? Humans? But humans were gone. Look at this, Minho called. He was standing at a public terminal, pulling up local records. The last logged activity was 17 days ago. But according to this, in the final hour before silence, every person in the city walked to their homes. All of them. At exactly the same time. Then nothing. Mass psychosis? Dabin suggested. Or coordination, Jiho said quietly. Something brought them home. Something made them wait. They searched for 3 more hours, finding nothing but empty streets and perfect preservation. Then Jiho remembered something from Suman's files. Research Complex 7, Human Facilities. Were there any human settlements on Terral 4? He asked. Minho checked his database. Yes. A research station on the northern moon. Abandoned when we took the system. Let's go. The moon was small, barely large enough to hold atmosphere. The research station was built into a crater, hidden from casual observation. As their ship approached, Dabin's instruments began showing the same quantum anomalies Minho had detected in the communication logs. The station was not abandoned. Inside, they found bodies. Velkari scientists in research uniforms slumped over consoles and lying on floors, dead but not violently. No wounds, no signs of struggle. They looked almost peaceful. What were they doing here? Dabin whispered. Jiho checked the main console. The system was still active, running programs that had continued for weeks after the scientists died. Research programs. Analysis of human technology. He pulled up the last log entry. A Velkari scientist appeared on the screen, young and frightened. This is Senior Researcher Kevin. Day 60 of the quantum biology study. We've made a breakthrough, but I'm not sure it's a good one. The human technology we recovered, it's not a weapon. It's something else. Something biological. They called it fold technology. The researcher looked over his shoulder nervously. We tried to reverse engineer it. We wanted to understand how it worked. But something went wrong. 3 days ago, we detected a response. The technology activated on its own. We've been seeing things since then. Shapes in the corners. Voices in empty rooms. He leaned closer to the camera. They didn't die. They changed. And now they're taking us. I can feel them reaching, pulling. They want us to come with them, but our bodies can't handle it. We're breaking apart. The recording ended abruptly. Jiho, Minho, and Dabin stood in silence. Around them, the dead scientists lay in their final positions, reaching toward something invisible, trying to grasp something that could not be grasped. We need to leave, Dabin said. Now. But Jiho was already copying the research files to his drive. Everything these scientists had learned, everything they had discovered about what humans had become. As they walked back to the ship, Jiho felt that sensation again. Being watched, being measured, something vast and ancient and patient studying him from somewhere beyond normal space. They launched from the moon and set course back to civilized territory. Behind them, Terral 4 floated in its orbit, beautiful and dead and waiting. What do we do now? Minho asked. Jiho looked at the data they had collected. The pattern was clear now. The coordinates, the quantum signatures, the vanishings. Humanity had not died. They had transcended into something else. And now, wherever they existed, they were reaching back into normal space, taking Velkari with them, not out of malice perhaps, maybe not even intentionally, but the effect was the same. The Velkari were disappearing. Now, Jiho said quietly, we find out what humanity became, before our entire species follows them into the dark. They proclaimed humanity dead, but their species was the one that disappeared part. The message traveled across the galaxy at faster than light speed. Every station, every colony, every world under Velkari control received it at the same moment. The war was over. Humanity had been eliminated. 3 decades of fighting had ended with complete victory for the Velkari Empire. Jiho stood in the archive hall on the orbital station above New Busan, watching the celebration broadcasts. His colleagues were cheering, embracing each other, dancing in the corridors. The Empire had won its greatest victory. 400 star systems under Velkari control, and now the rich territories of humanity were theirs to claim. But Jiho felt nothing. He was a historian, an archivist assigned to catalog what remained of human civilization. While others celebrated, he had a job to do. Someone needed to record what had been lost, even if that loss was considered a triumph. The colony world of New Busan floated below him, green and blue and beautiful. Humans had lived there for 200 years before the war. They had built cities, farms, schools, homes. Now those cities stood empty. The Velkari had taken the world without firing a shot. When they arrived, every human was simply gone. Jiho walked through the empty corridors to his workspace. The archive center was quiet now. Most of his team had left to join the celebrations. He sat at his terminal and began his work, sorting through the data files recovered from human settlements. Most of it was ordinary: family photos, financial records, entertainment files, shopping lists. The mundane details of billions of lives now ended. Jiho found it deeply sad, though he would never say so aloud. The Empire called it necessary. Humans had refused to submit, refused to accept Velkari rule. They had fought back with surprising ferocity. So they had to be removed. That was the official story. But Jiho had spent 3 years studying human culture, human history, human art, and philosophy. They were not so different from the Velkari. They loved, they laughed, they feared death, they cherished their children. They were people, and now they were gone. He worked through the evening cycle, processing file after file. Then something caught his attention. A data cluster that should not exist. Files dated after the supposed extinction. Files created 3 months ago, 2 months ago, 1 month ago. That was impossible. Jiho isolated the files. They were heavily encrypted, far beyond standard civilian protection, military grade or better. His fingers moved quickly across the interface, applying decryption algorithms. He knew he should report this to his supervisor. Strange files could mean anything: dangerous technology, trap programs, weapons. But curiosity drove him forward. The first file opened. It was a voice recording. A woman's voice speaking in human standard language. Jiho's translation software rendered it into Velkari. Day 47 of the protocol. My name is Suman. I'm a xenobiologist stationed at Research Complex 7. If you're hearing this, then you found what we left behind. I want you to know we didn't choose this lightly. We knew what it would cost, but we also knew we couldn't win your war. Jiho leaned closer to the screen. Research Complex 7. He knew that designation. It was a human military facility, destroyed in the final assault on Earth itself. Suman continued speaking. The Velkari think they're winning. Let them think that. By the time they understand what we've done, it will be too late to stop it. Project Chrysalis is almost complete. The fold calculations are stable. We've run 1,000 simulations and the success rate is 98%. We're ready. Project Chrysalis, the fold protocol. Jiho had never heard these terms before. He opened the next file. More recordings, different voices. Scientists, military officers, civilians. All talking about the same thing. All counting down to something. Their tone was not fearful. They sounded almost excited. One file contained coordinates. Thousands of them, scattered across what had been human space. Jiho cross-referenced them with current Velkari colonial maps. The coordinates corresponded to remote areas, deep space locations far from major population centers. Another file contained biological data, genetic sequences, neural mapping, quantum field equations. Jiho was not a scientist, but he recognized complexity when he saw it. This was advanced research, the kind that took decades to develop. He worked through the night cycle, opening file after file. A picture began to form, though he could not understand it fully. Humans had been working on something massive, something secret. Not a weapon, or at least not a weapon in any traditional sense. Something else. The final file he opened was another recording from Suman. She looked tired in the video, dark circles under her eyes, but she was smiling. This is my last entry before the activation. Earth falls tomorrow. The Velkari fleet is in orbit, and they're broadcasting their surrender demands. We're not going to answer. Instead, we're going to show them something they've never seen before. She paused, looking directly at the camera. If you're watching this, you're probably Velkari. You probably think you've won. You probably think humanity is extinct. I want you to know something important. We're not gone. We've just changed address. Suman laughed softly. The universe is bigger than you know. Reality has more layers than your people have discovered. We're going to one of those layers now. We're going to fold ourselves into something you can't touch, can't reach, can't destroy, and maybe someday we'll come back and show you what we've learned. She stood up, preparing to end the recording. Then she looked back at the camera one more time. See you on the other side. The recording ended. Jiho sat in silence for a long moment. Then he played it again and again, trying to understand what he had just witnessed. See you on the other side? What did that mean? What had humans done in their final moments? The Velkari military reported that Earth went silent exactly 37 days ago. No transmissions, no signals, no life signs. The fleet moved in to find empty cities, abandoned stations, deserted worlds. Billions of humans simply vanished. The Empire assumed they had fled or died. But what if they had done something else? Jiho looked at the coordinates again. Thousands of locations marked with precision. What was at those places? What had humans left there? He knew he should report this. This was significant, possibly dangerous. His supervisors needed to know. But something stopped him. Some instinct he could not name. If he reported this now, it would be classified, locked away, studied in secret by military intelligence. The truth would be buried, and Jiho wanted to know the truth. He copied the files to a secure personal drive. Then he erased all traces of his access from the system. It was a crime, stealing classified information, but he did it anyway. Around him, the orbital station hummed with life. Somewhere in the distance, he could still hear celebrating. The Velkari had won their war. They had claimed their prize. But Jiho stared at Suman's frozen smile on his screen and felt a cold certainty settle over him. The war was not over. It had only just begun.